afternoon, class. I'd like to pick up where we left off last time. The diversities of human character being nearly always derivative from this primary distinction, since the line between virtue and vice is one of dividing the whole of mankind. It follows, therefore, that the agents represented must be either above our own level of goodness or beneath it, or just such as we are. In the same way as with the painters, the personages are better than we are, those worse and those just like ourselves. It is clear that each of the above-mentioned arts will admit of these differences and that it will become a separate art by representing objects with this point of difference. Even in dancing, such diversities are possible, and they are also possible in the nameless art that uses language, prose, or verse without harmony as its means. For instance, are better than we are our own level, whereas the first level of parodies, the author of, are beneath it. The same is true of the personages may be presented in them with the difference exemplified in the difference it is that distinguishes tragedy and comedy. Also, the one would make its personages worse and the other better than the men of the present day. A third difference in these arts is in the manner in which each kind of object is represented, given both of the same means and the same kind of object for imitation. One may either speak at one moment in narrative and at another in an assumed character. One may remain the same throughout, without any such change. The imitators may represent the whole story dramatically, as though they were actually doing the things described. As we said at the beginning, therefore, the differences in these imitations of the art come under three heads: their means, their object, and their manner. So that as an imitator, Sophocles will be on one side to Homer, both portraying good men, and on the other to Aristophanes, since both present their personages as acting and doing. This, in fact, according to some, is the reason for plays being termed dramas, because in a play the personages act the story. Hence, too, both tragedy and comedy are claimed by the Dorians as their discovery, comedy by the Megarians, by those in Greece as having arisen from Megara, the king of democracy, and by the Sicilian on the grounds that the poet was of their country, and a good deal earlier than tragedy also.
Try to do sharper?
No. Principle of history, one for the words, comedy and drama. Their word for the outlying hamlets, they say, is comedy, whereas Athenians call them, assuming that comedians got the name from their revels, but from their strolling from hamlet to hamlet, lack of appreciation keeping them out of the city. Their word also for to act, they say, is such, then as to the number and nature of the points of difference in the imitation of these arts. It is clear that the general origin of poetry was due to two causes, each of them part of human nature. Imitation is natural to man from childhood. One of his advantages over the lower animals is that he is the most imitated creature in the world, and learns at first by imitation. And it is also natural for all of it to life in works of imitation. The truth of this is the second point. The truth of this second point is shown by experience through the objects themselves. We delight to view the most realistic representations of them in art, the forms, for example, of the lowest animals and of dead bodies. The explanation is to be found in a further fact, to be learning something is the greatest of pleasures, not only to the philosopher, but also to the rest of mankind. However small their capacity for it, the reason of the delight in seeing the picture is that one is at the same time learning, gathering the meaning of things, that the man there is so-and-so, or if one has not seen the thing before, one's pleasure will not be in the picture as an imitation of it, but will be due to the execution and coloring of some similar form. Imitation being natural to us, as also the sense of harmony and rhythm, The meters being obviously species of rhythm, it was through their original aptitude and by a series of improvements, for the most part gradual in their first efforts, that they created poetry with their improvisations. Poetry, however, soon broke up into two kinds according to the differences of character in individual poets. For the graver among them would represent noble actions, and those
I remember the words of Miss Marilyn Monroe as she groped through the sandbox for her John F.
the latter
Kennedy's
class
head.
produced invectives at first, just as others
Do
did
not be
hymns
afraid.
and a jail.
The orangutan is but a
We
passive
know
fancy.
of no such
His
poem
needs are
of any
few.
of the pre-Homeric poets, though they were probably many such writers among them. Instances, however, may be found from Homer downwards. As soon, however, as tragedy and comedy appeared in the field, those naturally drawn to the one line of poetry became writers of comedies instead of ironies, and those naturally drawn to the other, writers of tragedy instead of epics, because these new modes of art were grander and of more esteem than the old. Are there any questions, class?